Hello and welcome to what is, I think, the 16th already. We've been cruising along, but the 16th episode of the Chapman Show. A lot of breaking news. Trump's been having a field day. If you could subscribe to the channel, like the video. We've got Florida Millennial, who's been a good friend and a great follow. I'm going to bring him in now. We're going to get going right away. How's it going?
Mr. Chapman, can you hear me fine?
Yeah, I can hear you good. By the way, you
Good.
were wondering, I can see your audience streaming. So
Yeah, it seems to be working. This is my first time
yeah.
doing a
Yep.
double stream, so looking forward to it.
Yep. So we got to get right into the breaking news before we do that. So Trump's been having a lot of fun today. I'm sure you've seen it. So
Yes.
I'm gonna play a little video before we do it. It'll take me a second.
This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
Yeah. And then, of course, he capitalized on it. You
gotta have a great advance team to get you a garbage truck in like a matter of minutes. I mean, there were people on X this morning saying he's got to go. He's got to do a garbage truck run. And like literally hours later, they've got a truck with his name slapped on the side and Trump's in it. So rapid response for sure.
Well, and not only that, he's eating it up because, like, at his rally, I'll show the audience another video. It's about a minute. He is at the rally wearing his vest.
By saying 250
wow.
million
I did not see that.
Are not garbage.
Yeah, so they he told the story. He said, I didn't want to wear the vest to the rally, but they said, Mr. President, you look thinner. And he's like, sold.
I mean, if you can't win the Rust Belt after campaigning in a vest like that, I don't know what will win you the Rust Belt. But yeah, look, he's having a lot of fun. He's in his element. He's always been a really strong closer. And I think this week he's really kicked it up a notch. He's freewheeling. And I keep talking about this over and over again, how I kind of missed the 2016 joy. And I think it's back. And then you look at the other side, who's supposed to be all about joy, and it's like the complete opposite. It's like Kamala screeching at us, Michelle Obama telling men, you better shape up or your wives are going to hate you. And it's like, man, I don't know how many voters that's getting, but look, it's a tight race. We shouldn't be complacent. The polls look good. He's in a good position, but I don't think we have to let up. Steve Bannon this morning was talking about how he was kind of discouraged because he thinks a lot of people are like leaning on their shovels here and saying, "Oh, we're going to win. It's in the bag," and it's not a good attitude to have. I mean, it's good to be positive, but look, they're going to throw everything at him, and it's just important to completely flood the polls.
100%. He's in a great spot. I tend to think it's a little less close than the polls are saying. However, it's probably a better idea to think it's close.
Yeah, there's no harm in playing like you're down.
There's no harm because there's no reason to think, oh well, he's up. I don't need to go out because listen, the less of us that go out, the more likely they can play their shenanigans. Okay, you have to, because even though if you're up a little bit, you're down with these guys because Philadelphia and Detroit are going to do their thing. You have to be up by 2, okay, to win. That's just the way it works.
You got to expect. I mean, I'll be careful what I say. I don't want to get your channel banned or mine for that matter. But
right.
It's one of those things where like you almost have got to accept that like 1 or 2% is going to be, well, we won't go any further. Basically, you got to win these states by 2, 3, 4%. If you really want to win them.
Swamp the vote. We got to swamp the vote.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we got to do.
Remember that in 2016, one of the problems that Hillary had was that all the liberal networks were basically like measuring the drapes for her. And a lot of liberals just didn't vote. They're like, what's the point of even voting? She's going to win. Let's just like start the pre-drink early, I guess. And they didn't vote, and they got caught. So I don't want Trump supporters thinking like there's no point in me voting. Even if you're like here in Florida, it looks like he's going to win pretty easily.
Right.
Like you still got to go. And another reason why I want everyone to please go out and vote, even if you're in a blue state that's going to be blue, and even if you're in a red state that's going to be red, is because we need the popular vote. Like I'm so sick and tired of hearing about like, well, you didn't win the popular vote, and it's like I know we don't need to, but it would be really nice, It's like if we win.
Yeah, and Trump has a real shot at that this time.
He does, and honestly, like I don't want to vocalize it, but you kind of run the risk of the opposite happening. I see him doing much better in California, much better in New York, much better in all these places, and then you look at the Rust Belt, and it's kind of like he's up, but kind of stagnant there. So you don't want it to go the other way. You don't want us winning the popular vote and then getting caught in the electoral college. You want, and look, I think if he wins the popular vote, he's going to win, but.
100%.
It's just important that, like, no matter where you are, just treat it like yours is going to be the deciding vote. Just go, and that's all I can really tell you. I mean, it's going to be close. You say you think it's not going to be close. I don't know. It could. I wouldn't be surprised if it were a blowout for him. I wouldn't be surprised. I know people are talking about like Minnesota and New Hampshire and New Mexico and places like that. And that would be great. I think it was Rasmussen came out. I saw late today. Trump's down by 3, I think it is, in Minnesota, down by 1 somewhere else, one of those other blue states. So I don't think
it was New Hampshire. He was down by 1.
Right. And there's been a lot of indications that New Hampshire is up for grabs. Biden went there. She went there once. So you got to think there's a reason they're going there. They might be a little bit concerned about it. I don't think it would be a bad idea to have RFK up there campaigning. Just throw everything you've got at it. Minnesota, I don't know if I would really go up there, but look, it's dynamic. It's like things change quick, and I think in places like New Mexico, there's a lot of Hispanics down there. Who knows what can happen?
I don't think the campaign thinks that Minnesota is in play. So they're going down to New Mexico, they're going to Virginia, they're going to New Hampshire, but they are not going to Minnesota. Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing. So it appears that maybe he's within 3 in Minnesota, but you've got a problem here. Tim Walz is the governor there.
Yeah.
And we all know that governors have a big influence on their state's elections. Mm-hmm. I've said it before. Josh Shapiro wants to be president, and all of a sudden, magically, all the shenanigans in Pennsylvania suddenly are getting caught now.
Right.
Whereas no one ever gets caught before, and now everyone's getting caught. Why is that? Because, well, he's got a big influence on his state's election, and he would like Kamala to lose because he wants to run in 28, and he can't do that if she's the incumbent. So.
Right. Well, I don't know if you saw this too, but today they let Pennsylvania vote for 3 more days.
Yep.
Apparently, people were being turned away there. I don't really know what the story was, but that's big. Sometimes I wonder, though. I don't know. Maybe like we got a pretty good lead there, or did better there in the early vote than we usually do, and maybe it's best just to say, okay, let's leave it to the same day. But I think if MAGA people are voting in large numbers early, you might as well keep up the momentum.
Yeah, I think the Trump campaign sued, and I think instead of letting it go to court, they're just like, it's voting rights, so it's like they're gonna lose that, so they're just gonna let them vote. Right. At the same time, I don't know how much we're actually cannibalizing. Listen, with early voting, you're always cannibalizing some, no matter what. But there is some evidence that the Republican Party is in fact getting a lot of those low propensity and no history of voters out way more than Democrats are, especially in Virginia and Pennsylvania and other states that are important.
Right.
And which is good news. Also, I would say like with turnout, I don't know if you've been looking at the early voting,
Mhm.
But with early voting, there seems to be a turnout problem for the Democrats. What do you think about that?
Well, I was sort of in the replies on some of your posts on X this week because you had a lot of going on there, and I was telling you that it's best because you had some posts where I thought, you need to break it down by percentage because it's impossible to tell because you look at 2020 and you've got like this ridiculous mail-in and early vote numbers, so it's hard to compare. It's like in 2020 the lead is like huge, and then in now the lead is not very big at all in terms of the lead for Democrats. But then again, you have to remember the raw vote lead was bigger then because there was just more people voting. But once you broke it down by percentage, you do see that Republicans are doing better. The thing I do want to warn people about is the idea that because we are leading the early vote, that means that the same day election day vote will be what it was in 2020. I don't think we've like cannibalized a huge part of the vote by any stretch. But if I don't know what the exact numbers are, I guess it varies state by state, but in certain states, you might see in 2020, if you look back, you'll see Republican have an advantage in terms of same day vote by like 30 points, sometimes 40 points more on election day. I would expect that to be not as big this time. So if it was 30 last in 2020, I'd say expect it to be 15% lead, 20% lead. I really do think a lot of Republicans and a lot of independents who are for Trump did vote early this time, whereas in 2020 they didn't vote early. I think Republicans and I hate saying Republicans, but the right side and Trump side in general have gotten a little bit wise to the fact that it's best to bank the votes early. Then you don't have to spend as much money on per voter. The vote's there. And think about it. It makes sense. Like if you're depending on same day vote, you're going to lose like 10% of that vote just by people not being able to go for some reason. It rains. Oh, the kids have a game they didn't expect. You're always going to lose some of that. And it's going to be a small bit. But when you're talking about a state where you lost it in 2020 by what like a very, very small number, 30,000 votes, that could be the whole ball game. So I think it's really good that people are voting early. But it's impossible to gauge because it's like 2020 was such an aberration and so many Democrats were voting early. Then you got to think about that too. You got to think, well, a lot of Democrats this time around are going to vote on election day, whereas in 2020 they were like aside COVID. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, the early vote looks really good, but you just have
Especially
to. I think
in
people just need
places
to be aware.
Yeah, especially in places like Nevada and Arizona, like even Fox News, who we know is a kind of a lukewarm conservative network, has even moved Arizona to lean Republican now. The early voting for Republican lead in Arizona has become so big that I mean, Trump could conceivably win that state by like 6 points.
Well, Nevada too. Nevada is the crazy one. It's like I don't know if I saw this incorrectly, but I thought I saw someone say that like half the state has already voted in Nevada.
Yeah.
And they said, and Mark Halperin, who I always quote now because I'm always watching Two Way.
Everybody watches that show now.
Yeah. So I was watching him the other day, and he was saying that it's actually quite possible that they are going to be able to know if Trump's going to win that state by the time polls close on election night, just by the raw amount of Republicans who've been voting. It's be like an insurmountable lead. And Nevada is one of those states where Trump has just come really close, like really, really close. And you start to wonder, like, that Harry Reid machine, is that still a big factor there?
It's dying out, I think.
It is. And then you have more and more Hispanics voting for Trump. So, you raise his Hispanic vote from like 30% to 35%. That wins you Nevada, possibly wins you Arizona. I'm taking Arizona's early vote with a grain of salt because you just got to know in that group of Republicans voting early, there's a lot of McCain type Republicans in there who aren't voting for Trump, or, like Republican women who are voting. It's just, yeah, it's hard to take these numbers and just be like, oh, we know what's going on, but there are good indications. I think we should be grateful that they're looking the way they are, because they're looking very good. In Pennsylvania, what they call the blue firewall is, I think it's at like 300,000 less now, when they said they needed it to be 500,000. Now, once again, the 500,000 number is based on the assumption that the same day, election day vote will be what it was in 2020. And as I've warned, that might not be. It's like, we're probably going to win the same day, election day vote, but don't expect it to be like by 30, 40 points like it was, because the whole dynamics of how people vote and why they vote early has changed. And I just warn, I always tell people to vote early, but vote in person, because the mail-in is just,
sketch.
I don't know. I can't even believe we're still doing this, honestly. It's like the chain of custody. And now I'm seeing people like setting the boxes on fire. What do you call the
drop boxes?
The drop boxes on fire. And I'm like, okay. And then now people are going to see that and they're going to say, oh, what a great idea. It's like, oh, so.
Yeah, they were doing that in Oregon. They were lighting drop boxes on fire in Republican counties. I wonder who got that idea. It's Oregon. Come on. Kamala's going to win it. Let it go. Seriously. But I also noticed that, and it may mean absolutely nothing, but it is, an anomaly. So it's like, what? But Republicans are now leading early voting in New Jersey. And it's like,
I saw that,
It's like, okay, what do you take from that?
I take from that, like I was talking about earlier, Trump's going to do much better in these blue states, and he's not necessarily going to win them. I've always thought Jersey was like a state where like Trump should do better. I don't know. Maybe I just like misunderstand the state, but I know there's a lot of people like a lot of New Yorkers who live in New Jersey. But Jersey just seems like a place. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's like one of those places where you think there'd just be like a lot of Trump support. So yeah, I think he'll do better there. I think, like instead of, I don't know what it was, we could look it up last time. I'm going to say 10, 12 point loss, 15 point loss. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he lost New Jersey, but lost it by like 7 points, 6 points. The last time a Republican really tried for New Jersey was 2004. George W. gave a good run at it, because I think he tried, because this was like, I know there's like a lot of young people, like really young people who follow politics now, and they may not remember those days, but in the aftermath of September 11th, there was just like a lot of people in New York and in that whole area who, they were more likely to vote Republican for security reasons. Yeah, even more than I thought it was. Was that 16%?
It's 16%. So what was the Bush one in 2004?
Yeah, go to 2004. I'm curious to see what it was. I bet it's probably closer.
In 2016, Trump lost New Jersey by 14, so he did a little worse than 20. But that's expected, because it was a rough year for him. 2004.
That's
7.
Okay.
7.
Yeah, see, closer than you'd think, right? A lot of that's just because 9/11, and people kind of pissed off about what happened there and wanting revenge. And Bush was like the guy who was touting that, So I do remember them trying to make a play for it. They even sent Dick Cheney to Hawaii, like one of the last days of this is like the first election I ever watched. So I have a lot of like interesting, like pointless knowledge about the 2004 race. But, actually, speaking of that, there are some parallels between the 2004 race and this one, particularly in the Democrat candidate. Like John Kerry was very, he was very good at taking all sides of every issue. He was really good at just like saying a bunch of things while saying nothing at all. And there were so many.
Harris.
Yeah, basically just like Kamala. And from a liberal state, he's from Massachusetts, she's from California. And Bush was like, a lot of people would say stuff like, I don't really agree with everything Bush says, but at least he takes a stand. At least he's honest. At least we know where he's at. And so in that sense, I think it's kind of an interesting parallel. Now, of course, the Bush agenda is so different from the MAGA agenda, so we can't really compare those two things. I mean, speaking of two-way, I was watching this morning.
That's what the 2004 election ended up like that. Just so everyone saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to really see like the challenge we have, if you go to the 04 race, you probably won't be able to find it here in Wikipedia, but if you go to like the New York Times map or something or whatever it is, and you go to Georgia, the Atlanta suburbs were like all Republican. And same thing for like North Carolina, like you go to oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yep,
So
right
yeah,
here.
not totally Republican, but look, I mean, what you got like 4 counties that are blue, and one of them's light blue. If you were to look at that map now, it would be like totally blue all around the Atlanta metro.
Let's go to 20.
So, like that's really
look at that right there.
Yeah, like that's what you're looking at in Georgia. It's just, and the thing is, the margin is so small that really he only needs to do like a little bit better in those areas to get it. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens. He's doing well with Hispanics. He's doing well with African American men in particular. Honestly, the thing, it's a weird election because the thing that concerns me the most isn't like the minorities. Usually anyone who's been a Republican for long enough knows that like most elections are like, oh no, like wait till all like the minorities in Atlanta vote, and in Miami it's like, oh, but that's really not the issue anymore. The issue now is like suburban whites and like all these professionals, and that's why he's gonna probably lose in Nebraska, whatever the
Nebraska too. Yeah, I always tell my my viewers that I live 4 hours from Nebraska. They got great concerts there, but but it is like the most affluent small metro area that you can think of. It is not in any way a Trump friendly area. It's got like it's the type of place that people who work at Charles Schwab would work at, right? They literally named the field Charles Schwab, the field that they always have concerts at. But
so not a mega hotbed, to say the least.
No, and it's weird because it's not a huge metro area, but it's like a small Manhattan where it's super nice, and there's like none of the dung or the homeless people, because that's all in the boroughs, the other boroughs. Right. So because the rich people live in Omaha, right? But,
and it's honestly, it's a great example of a place where Republicans used to win. I mean, this is like this is really the challenge for us, and so I don't know. Like maybe if we keep an eye on how that Nebraska district does, we can have a good idea of like how the suburbs are going. I don't know. I mean, the southern suburbs are different, of course. But
I had Qantas on Monday, and he said that when he runs simulations, that in the simulations when he plugs in Trump +1 or Trump +2 popular vote wise, in the scenario when Minnesota goes Trump, so will Nebraska too.
Okay, yeah.
So take that for what you will.
I mean, I really don't want it to come down to that. You see all these scenarios where I did a video about this on my channel a while back about like the 269 nightmare, where it like comes down to this stupid like district in Nebraska. But Republicans, put up a fight trying to get that nullified, but they failed back in, I don't know when that was, a while.
Yeah, because Republicans really don't have the stomach for that, especially close to the election. They're so weak-kneed.
Right. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, yeah, that's the challenge for him. It's these like suburban areas. I'm hoping, and I'm hearing a lot of women talk this way about the race. I think there's going to be a lot of like suburban women who are more receptive to voting for Trump, not necessarily because they like him, but because of the gender issue. The I don't really want to call it like the woke issue. It's kind of an overused term, but the whole like trans bathrooms, women in or men and women's sports. I think a lot of them. It's kind of like I call them like the Megyn Kelly voter. It's like these like kind of they're Republican, but like they're not MAGA, but they're just their biggest issue is like all this woke stuff. Like they're not worried about the border. They're not worried about all this other stuff. It's like they're more worried about like stuff like that, or their school board is being taken over by like Marxist or whatever. Don't get me wrong; those are all true. It's all happening.
But those were so 2022 midterms.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I feel like we've litigated this issue to death.
Well, and I also saw like after the Puerto Rican joke, and I guess I'll get your take on that too. But like after the Puerto Rican joke, I saw Megyn Kelly. She was going on like, "You're so stupid."
I saw it. I saw it. I watched that.
You had that comedian there. I was like, honey, no one cares except for CNN. This is why This is why you got kicked off of Fox News.
I like to check in with Megyn Kelly. I think she's really smart, and sometimes I like to check in with her because there are a lot of voters who are like her. It's like when you're running in an environment like this, you just have to accept that. It'd be easy for us to say like, "Oh, screw it," like just be politically incorrect all the time. Like, I think I told you that once, when we were talking about how Trump should act during the debate. I said, well, there's like how I would like him to act, and then there's like how he probably should act. Those are two different things. Yeah, look, Megyn Kelly, I heard that whole commentary. When it comes to the comic or the comedian, I honestly don't think it was a good thing to have him up there. It's just like, look, we got a week to go. We can do a thank you tour after the 5th, and like we can bring all our comedians out there. And we can be like politically incorrect and whatever. But it's like, guys, like, look, it's crunch time. Like we gotta like it or not, a lot of these women are going to be offended really easily about this stuff, and it's just an unforced error, honestly. But thank God he was rescued. I mean, this Hinchcliffe guy should be sending Biden. I don't even know what. Like, I think maybe he should just send Biden a thank you letter every morning, like for the rest of his life, because this guy was gonna like if something happened, he'd be like he'd be the reason Trump lost or something, But luckily, like the news has sort of gotten off about it a little bit.
As I was saying with the Puerto Rican joke, it wasn't that it was going to affect the Trump base or, the people who cared the most are the Megyn Kellys, the suburban moms. Those are the ones who cared the most. And those are, they're not necessarily Trump voters, but there are some of them who are voting Trump and they're not going to say it. And,
yeah, they're the well, I don't like him. I don't like how vulgar he is, but I really don't want women or men in women's sports. So, yeah, I watched her whole rant about that, and her take was like it was too much of a bro fest. It was like we had too much testosterone up there.
Yeah, that sounds like Nikki Haley is what that sounds like. Did you see that?
Yeah. Look, I was watching. Sorry. Go ahead.
So Nikki Haley, so there's been a lot of talk, the Trump campaign's been in contact with her. Is she going to campaign? That seems to be all lie because she clearly has said on Special Report that she's not only has not been in contact with the Trump campaign, but she's angry at the Trump campaign for being too masculine.
Yeah. Look, I was watching. I honestly, at this point, just send her out there. Like, if they can make amends, just send her out there. I don't think it can hurt. Like, no man's gonna look at this and go, "I'm not voting for Trump because Nikki Haley's out there." But I was watching when Trump went on Fox and Friends. I don't really watch Fox News much, but I was home.
I check in on it. They're the enemy, so I got to see what's going on.
I was home visiting my my parents, and my mom loves watching Fox News. I mean, I don't mind, whatever. And so she was watching Trump on Fox and Friends. And
was that the one where he was on the couch?
Yes. So Brian Kilmeade is there, And he's like, they're asking him about all this stuff. And at the end, Brian Kilmeade goes, so is Nikki Haley going to campaign with you? Why aren't you bringing Nikki Haley out there? And I'm thinking like, well, first of all, like she didn't get that many votes. Second, why aren't you saying like, hey, why is Ron DeSantis not out there? Like, why Nikki Haley? Like imagine Trump lost the primary and Nikki Haley won the nomination. Would they be asking Nikki Haley, like, why don't you get Trump up there to campaign with you to get all the MAGA people? No, it's like these people are obsessed with Nikki Haley. And it's like, it's this total, like this whole like neocon, like, I don't want to say cult. I hate when people just say, oh, you're in a cult. This whole neocon world where they all think it's still like 2003 or something, and like you get people coming on Halpern's show like this all the time. It's like they'll come on and it'll be like a 60-year-old guy. He's like, I've been a conservative all my life, but then 2019 came and I just couldn't take it anymore. So I'm voting for Harris. It's like, and then you have people coming on there and they go, well, I'm a Liz Cheney Republican. I'm like, I didn't even know these people existed. Like this is
Liz Cheney Republican.
And this is someone, by the way, when I was in high school, I was like a big defender of George W. Bush. And I was like, he's doing the right thing. And like the liberals are trying to tear him down. And like, yeah, the Iraq war is a complete mess. But like the Democrats are total like Marxists. I was like if you went back to my teen years, it's like I had this whole other like process I went through. Like I was like a Bush Republican, and then I was a libertarian where I was like, everyone do whatever they want. Everyone just like, yeah, if you want to like do crack, just do crack. It's like, and then you come out of it eventually. But like these people, they just never came out of it. I don't know what happened. Like they still think it's like, they still want Nikki Haley to like come in and I don't know, like go to war with Iran. I don't know, like what is the, like, who is the base? Who is the Nikki Haley base? I always assumed it was just Democrats voting in the primary, but maybe it really is. It's like,
that's what I was gonna say. Like, what does she really add to the campaign? Because so much of her support, we all know, we're not stupid. It was a lot of Democrats playing games in the primaries, which was making her, continue to get so much support. And it really wasn't a lot, but a lot of her primary voters were going to be Harris or Biden supporters. At the time, they were going to be Biden supporters. And that even though Ron DeSantis flopped after Iowa, he's far more appealing to the base in a campaign like this than Nikki Haley. Nobody wants to hear from Warhawk Nikki Haley.
No, it's not about base. It's about, what it's about? It's about women. They're just like, well, if Nikki Haley's up there, women will be like, oh, maybe Trump's not so bad.
Yeah, but they're misreading the campaign this time. Trump is winning men by more than Harris is winning women. So the gender gap is actually a detriment to Harris now. That's why they're going crazy and they're going on video game streams and trying to appeal to women. To men, because the gender gap is their problem now, not Trump's.
Well, yeah. If you go to my Twitter, I just tweeted it out today. I think it was today. The gender gap, like I think it was my last tweet. If you want to look for it, the gender gap in the latest, I think it's Quinnipiac, Pennsylvania poll. You have to go through the crosstabs to look at them. The gender gap is insane. Like I've never seen a gender gap like this ever. Like, and it's like, the one is greater than the other, and it always favors the Democrats. But this time, it might be that the male gender gap is so big that they might not even be able to make it up, no matter how many women come out to vote. Honestly, it's like.
Right.
I was astonished by how big it was. It's like, sometimes when you look at these polls, you gotta kind of dig to find like what the real thing going on is. And that's what's going on in Pennsylvania right now. Like, and just as you said, that's why they're doing like, they've got walls like playing video games. He's got his Mountain Dew beside him. Like the whole thing is like, they're really, really pushing it. And it's so astroturfed and so fake, but they got to do it because they have a big problem. So, I can't remember what the number.
I got it right here.
Yeah,
I'm gonna share it right now.
I'm not doing this to like to try and get followers or anything. But I just remember I tweeted it.
No, I don't. It's good content.
Yeah, here it is. Yeah. So like, look at this. Okay, so women 55-41. That's a pretty big gap, pretty concerning for Trump, but okay.
But he's
But then you
winning
go to
men.
men,
Yeah.
a 58-38. I
Yeah.
mean, that's crazy. I've never
Yeah.
seen numbers like that. 20-point gap with men.
Also, and if you go to, I did this show last Saturday. If you look into the early voting, male turnout is higher than 2020, and female turnout is slightly down. So, given that Trump is winning more males than she is winning females, or however you want to phrase that, the turnout is concerning for her.
Well, that's the whole
why
thing.
you said she's on. Walls is on those video games thing, talking about how I'm pro porn and drinking Mountain Dew, and he told some guy because some dude was just being a dick, it's like oh, so what do you think about porn? And he's like, Waltz is like, oh, you do you, man, and then another guy's like, oh, hey, you won the porn vote.
Then I saw him the other day. He said he's talking about JD Vance. He's like, JD Vance isn't a regular guy. JD Vance went to Yale, and then he became a venture capitalist. He's like, I don't even know what the heck a venture capitalist is. It's like, maybe you should probably know that, if you're going to be vice president. Like, but it's just this. It's this. They're trying so hard to like attract this like normal dude, this like working class guy who's like. He thinks Trump, especially in the Midwest, you probably get this a lot. It's like, I can imagine there's like a lot of like Midwestern guys, in their 50s who are like tough and they do like blue collar jobs, but like they look at Trump and they think he's like, he's like too rich and he doesn't understand us or whatever. So they're like trying to pull that out by like, it's almost like they're like,
I don't think I've ever met that guy in the Midwest.
Oh, they exist. Like, trust me, they. Well, you would know better than me. You're there, but like, I don't know. Like, there's no way Democrats win like they do up there without men voting for Democrats because of that. It's just like, it's unreal. And this guy who was on this morning on Two-Way, who said he's been a conservative all his life and now he's voting for Harris. Mark asked him, or someone asked him, so who are you voting in the Senate race? And he said Bob Casey. And I'm like, this guy, like, I don't understand these people. Like, do they not understand what's going on with the country?
Well, it doesn't make sense. So, like, if you're a conservative and you're going to vote for Harris, but you're a conservative, wouldn't you vote for Republican down ticket?
Yeah, like, the logic is supposed to be that they're conservative, but they just can't stomach Donald Trump.
Right.
But then, like, a normal Republican comes along. I don't know much about McCormick, but I'm assuming he's like, run-of-the-mill Republican guy.
Yeah, he kind of is.
And you don't vote for that either. So, like, and he said, well, if Nikki Haley were the nominee, I would have voted for her. But, I have a suspicion that, like,
he's a Bush Republican.
Yeah, well, yeah, he is. But I still have a suspicion that even if Nikki Haley were the nominee, he'd be going, yeah, well, no. Haley's gonna put too many Trump people around, or there would be some reason, to say, actually, no, I can't.
It seems like there are always these people every 4 years where there are, quote, former Republicans, or I've been a Republican my whole life, but they probably have never voted Republican.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So even though they literally they believe Republican, but they're always appalled by the Republican Party.
Yeah, and my experience, like, watching different shows and listening to, and you can't, it's all anecdotal, but it's really weird. Like, it's almost like the group that's kind of like screwing us over a little bit here is like white guys, like in their 60s, who you would think should be voting Republican and they're not. And then you bring on like an Hispanic dude who's like 26 and he's like, yeah, Trump all the way. And it's like, if we could only like get these, honestly, I think that's why he's so close in the Rust Belt and he's not leading by more there, is because there's a lot of, and I think it's a generational thing, because I think a lot of boomers still watch a lot of mainstream news. They consume CNN like tap water. They read
Which
the paper.
both are disgusting, by the way.
Yes, exactly. Especially if you're in Flint. As Trump, one of Trump's greatest lines in the 2016 election was, how did it go? He said, it used to be that you couldn't drink the water in Mexico and the cars were made in Flint. And then he's like, now the cars are made in Mexico and you can't drink the water in Flint. I was like, that is perfect.
Yes.
But yeah, so look, I think it's like a generational thing because boomers, think about it, like they aren't, and I don't say this with any disrespect because it's like they're really good people. A lot of them are really conservative by nature, but they don't watch like you say Joe Rogan to them and they go like, who? And if you were to say like Patrick Bet David, they'd be like, I don't know who that is.
Right.
And so they're not getting, and I think there's this whole, and by the way, the left is so worried about this. I mean, this isn't election related. This is more like just politics related. The left is really worried about how social media has really started to push a lot of people to the right, especially young people, because it's like
young men especially.
Yeah, like they are freaked out by like Andrew Tate and like, well, there are other names who I won't mention, but they're really freaked out that people are getting, especially young people, are finding other media and they're finding other takes. And they're starting to wonder if like all of the crap they've been sold by mainstream corporate media is just like totally wrong and totally a bunch of lies. The problem is like there's still a lot of boomers who aren't getting exposed to that. Like they aren't like on X all day long. They aren't on like watching Instagram reels.
No, they're on Facebook.
They're not on the Discord server. Yeah, they're on Facebook where like you're not really going to get much there in terms of that. I mean, there's a little bit, but and they're still like, they see what's going on in the election by like going to like the convenience store, the bodega, and like getting the New York Times and like flipping through it, or like they'll go on CNN and like when they hear Jake Tapper or someone say like, oh, like Trump wants to be a dictator on day one, they're like, well, my conservative principles can't take that. So, it's a bit of a problem, and like, and those people are more prone, unfortunately, to vote for Harris. The task is to make sure maybe they just don't vote at all, and that would probably help because they clearly can't stomach Trump for we can list the reasons, but yeah, it's just been a really weird election in that way, in that the people you'd think like would traditionally be those who would be for us and for Trump or for the Republican ticket aren't. And then you've got like people he would never imagine who are like coming out in droves. It's like we finally got like the Hispanic vote to like 40%, 45%. And now like the base Republican vote, not the base Republican voters, but like these traditional Republican voters are like, well, we don't really like Trump's personality. So it's like, but yeah.
Yeah.
Rant over.
Yep. So, shit, I was gonna say something and I forgot it. But I would say on the seniors, so there's a difference between the seniors and the super seniors. So the super seniors tend to be very Republican, and then the seniors tend to be more Democrat. So you're like your 60 to 70, they're more Democrat, but like your super seniors, they're more Republican. And a lot of times in polls, you'll see Harris leading seniors by 3 because they haven't separated them, or they got an oversample of seniors that are more Democrat, and they're not getting enough of the super seniors because there's an issue reaching those because, dude, they're 80. I mean,
right.
So
right. Yeah, it's stuff I've never thought of it that way. Like, so you're talking about like super seniors, and then there's seniors who are like in their like maybe their 60s, late 60s, different group. Yeah, I've never thought of it that way. I think Trump will probably win the over 65 vote. It's just it is something that's like in the back of my mind sometimes. It's like a lot of these people are not going to vote for Trump for whatever reason. So I'm just trying, I don't want to be too optimistic, and I also don't want to be too pessimistic, but
we're going to win, but you got to run through the tape. All gas, no brakes.
Exactly. The spoken like an original Trumper. Can't stump the Trump. This centipede is a predator.
So I would say on your podcast theories, so I think Trump has run a great campaign, Instead of going to the OG mainstream media, he has gone to all of these big time podcasts. And you look at the number of views he's getting, it's more than he could even get on Fox News.
Yeah.
Like the number of people he's reaching is insane. Like 30 million people in 24 hours on Joe Rogan. And then they're like, whoa, JD Vance, go to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah. That was 30 million too, with YouTube suppressing it for a short time. There was a glitch. And
glitch.
You couldn't find it. So, yeah, look, I'm not surprised. And the comments are unreal too. It's like, and that's why I think he's just.
Well,
he's
and that's why
better.
young men, all these podcasts, young men watch them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how he's reaching these low prop and no history of voting voters. And that's why he's able to turn them out. And that's how he's able to turn young men conservative, because he's reaching them. Whereas, listen, Kamala Harris is trying to do it, but she's so pitiful on these call her daddy podcasts and everything. It's just they don't have, her and Walz just don't have charisma. Whereas Trump and Vance are just two highly talented campaigners and communicators. Not to mention Trump's a once in a generation talent. And then Vance, his ability to speak on issues is just next level.
It's one of those things where it's like, the harder a candidate tries to be something or appeal to said group, the more cringe it is and the more it backfires. Like Trump doesn't try to appeal to working class people. He appeals inherently through his demeanor, through his approach, through his gravitas, through his charisma. And a great example of that is like, you see a lot of politicians will go to like a town hall or whatever, or a rally, and you'll see, and they'll be like in their flannel and they'll like roll up their sleeves. Like they're like LARPing. They're like LARPing as a middle-class man. But then Trump goes to McDonald's and he's wearing his like Brioni suit. He takes the jacket off. He's got the cufflinks still on. It's like, he's not trying to BS you. He's like, yeah, and I think a lot of working class people, and this might be different in America than it is in, say, like the UK, where like in the UK, from what I understand, it's like there's a lot of identity built up in being middle class. And whereas in America, a lot of middle class people, when they look at Trump, they don't think like, oh, like I don't like Trump, he's Richie rich. They look at Trump and they're like, that's how I would be if I were rich. Like if I were rich, I'd be going around and saying what he says and flying in my plane with my name on the side. It's like, so it's one of those things where when you're trying to appeal to working class people by like, I don't know what they're trying to do, there's a million different things they try and do it, but it always comes off as a LARP. And I think, especially young people, they can sniff out like the inauthentic candidate real quick. Yeah. And so Trump is just, he's authentic. You're really never going to find another candidate like him. So, and that's why they're so afraid of him, is because he has a connection that they don't have. And he has a connection that's like indestructible. And they have tried everything in their power to try and break that connection, but it won't break. And the more they try and destroy it, the stronger the connection gets. So it's like they're in one of those like what's that, like that Chinese finger thing, where the more you try and struggle out of it, like the worse it gets. For them.
I'll be honest, I hate those things.
Yeah, well, what are they called again? I forget. Maybe someone in chat can tell me. I forgot the name. But yeah, it's like one of those things. The more they struggle to take him down, it's like the bigger and the more solid his connection gets with like middle class people. So,
all right. So, what is your prediction for the election? I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Well, I haven't made my map yet. I will do that in the coming days. I do think he'll win, as long as everything is like on the up and up. He's got to keep up the momentum though, like for the next. Well, there's still 4 days left.
Yeah, it's like 5 days, but yeah, I think
5 days. He's got to keep up the momentum. he's got to have like really high turnout with especially men. We've talked about it. His base needs to turn out. He needs to be focused the next 4 days and be on message. If you look back, and I know I say it over and over and over again, but 2016, Bannon like took him by the collar and was like, dude, go out there and like stick to this populist message for 4 days and you're going to win. And he did that and he won. And that's how you win the Rust Belt. And
I mean, that garbage truck was pretty on message.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, look, he's having fun. He's loose. He's a good closer. I would not bet against him because he's like another thing. And like, this isn't like wrapped up in data or analytics or anything, but there's such thing as destiny. And I feel like this is just like, he has a destiny here. You know, the whole story, you look back, he runs in 2015. No one thinks he can win. He wins. Everyone is shocked. They try and take him down the whole presidency. They impeach him, 2-3 times?
2 times, yeah.
He runs again in a crazy time.
The worst re-election environment for an incumbent ever.
Right, and he comes like very close. There's
that close, man. That close.
There's all this controversy. There's the whole January 6th thing happens. And on January 7th, 2021, they say, this guy is done. He's canceled from Earth. Like, he's going to go to Mar-a-Lago, and we are never going to hear from him again. And like,
just to make sure, they arrest him and then indict him.
Yeah, I haven't even gotten to that.
Him.
Yeah, and then like the worst was yet to come. So yeah, they do all those things to him, and he just grows in power. The more they try and destroy him, the power grows. And then to cap things off, you have Butler with the horrible events of that day, and then for Pennsylvania to be the swing state, the most important state, the state where this happened, where the attempt on his life happened. Look, I just think like God is in control. He's like looking over America and he's like, here it is. Like I'm writing this story for you perfectly. So look, I'm not saying it's 100% that's going to happen, but you look at the data. The data's good. Early vote numbers are good. He's polling better than he's ever polled.
And a Trump polling year, which there always is one. They're always going to understate the white vote. So,
yeah. And I've always said that. I've always said that like they underpoll him by 2 points. Any poll I ever look at with Trump, I always add on 2 points for him. Now, whether or not like the polling firms and the polling gurus have like fixed that problem or accounted for that, I don't know. They say they have.
Yeah, but 2 points is still within the margin of error. They're not that perfect.
Yeah, and another thing is, that's true. And another thing is that what you're seeing for the first time, and I think since he ran in 2016, because even then he didn't, you're seeing him hit 50. You were constantly
nationally too.
Yeah, and we're constantly hearing that like he has a ceiling, and it's like, oh, the ceiling in 2016, it was like he can't get above 45% of the vote. He's not going to win. And then they said this time around, oh, he can't get above 46, 47. How can you win like that? You can't win if there's not a third party candidate. But now he's polling at, in some polls, 50%. That's a pretty good ceiling because, you know, and you have to account for, too, in some of these states, Jill Stein's on the ballot. I don't know what percent she's going to get, but it's going to be maybe 1%. Maybe
Michigan, she'll do the best in.
Yeah, I've heard that, too. I don't know. Is there a reason for that? Or
Arabs. She does very good with Arab Americans.
Okay.
So.
You know, I also will say one of the things about the Trump rally that, and I watched everyone, and I thought Melania was actually the best. Melania, like, how can you not want a first lady like that? Like, are we serious? But anyways, Rudy Giuliani was up there.
She's a total smoke show, too, just to saying, you know.
Yeah, that helps. Rudy Giuliani was up there, and he's, like, going off, like, about Israel and Palestine, whatever. I don't want to get into what he was saying. But I think, like, there's a good chance that a lot of these Muslim voters in Dearborn, Michigan, especially, like, there's a sizable chunk there. I saw a poll where Trump was leading among that group.
Yep, by 2 points.
And it's like Michigan is so close that I'd just be careful not to like alienate a group like that unnecessarily, And so when I saw Rudy up there, going on and on about that issue, I just thought like, we can't really be making unforced errors like this. And like, I like Rudy, but it's like, you know what? In Michigan, that might be the difference. So on this Israel-Palestine thing, I think Trump should just be like, one of the great things he says, and he doesn't say it enough. He used to always say this. He would always say, like, I'm the candidate of peace. Like, I'm against forever wars. I'm against, like, you have no idea. That is so popular. Like, people really are sick of all that stuff on both sides.
They don't like what's going on in Israel. They don't like all the money going to Ukraine for a war we
Right.
have no business in.
Right.
Especially so I cannot tell you how many times I heard, we're out of money for the disaster in North Carolina, but we're sending billions to Ukraine. For people who don't even vote, I heard that from people who are absolutely disgusted that we couldn't take care of North Carolina, but we're sending billions to Ukraine.
That's the whole point of Trump. America first. That's what it was all about. I mean, it was the whole point of all this is that America has been taken care of, or maybe in some cases not, but attempting to take care of and sort out the problems for everybody else.
Ever since World War II.
Yeah, and look, it's like that's the part of that is what makes America amazing. Like, people forget, like, they really allowed Europe to take forever to pay them back for rebuilding Europe.
The Marshall Plan?
Yeah, and they said don't worry about it. So for so long, America is like a father in a family who's always like, paying for everyone. Here, the car payment here, we'll rescue you here, we'll do this, we'll do that. And the father is grateful to be doing that and wants to be doing that. But at a certain point, when the situation has gotten so bad that America is no longer taking care of Americans who live here and vote here and have contributed here and pay taxes here. And that's a great example of it. You look at North Carolina and they're like flooded out, and there's help for Ukraine. There's help for everyone who has a handout. And, it's interesting too. We all help the NATO countries, even when they're delinquent on what they should be paying into NATO. And they say Trump's trying to destroy NATO when really Trump's just saying, hey, guys, can you pay like what you agreed to pay? But oddly enough, when something happens to America, you don't see Germany and other European countries saying, yeah, here's $500 billion. You like, go rebuild your flood zone. It's like, no. So it's like, it's a one-way relationship here. And it's the same thing with trade. Anyway, I'm just getting on a soapbox here, but like that was the whole point of Trump. And that's what like the old Republican Party still doesn't get. And that's why they're still going on with the tariff. Oh no, the tariffs, they're going to destroy everything. Tariffs. Every country in the world uses tariffs to their own advantage.
Tariffs are actually really popular among the working class too.
They are, and that's why he won in 2016. Part of the reason is because he was trying to defend American workers, American jobs, and there are tons of those people who have voted Democrat all their life because for a long time, the Democrats were the party that was for that. And then Clinton came along and they got a little more corporatist, but he peeled over so many voters from that group. And I think he's going to, again, I noticed he's been talking about tariffs more and more the past month, and he doesn't back off of them at all. You saw him on Joe Rogan. He says, tariff, the most beautiful word in the English language.
He's even talking about getting rid of the income tax and replacing it with a tariff. That's old school, man. Yeah. I would love to see that happen. It'll never happen.
You really want to bring out low propensity voters to say you're just going to get rid of the income tax altogether. Like, yeah, look, I think people like outside the box thinking. And so I think the no tax on tips alone is going to win in Nevada. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that how much of an effect that has. I know there's like a lot of service workers out there. I guess hospitality, would you say, workers? Yeah, especially in Vegas and Reno, but especially Vegas, Clark County.
the Culinary Union has already came out and said that don't listen to the polls. Trump's going to win Nevada. Every time they say that, they've been right because obviously they're the ones who are organizing. They're the ones who are voting. They're one of the largest voting blocks there, the most important voting block in Nevada. Even though they technically endorsed Harris, they only did it. They only did it because of the remnants of the Harry Reid machine that remains.
Well, in Nevada, as I said, if you look at the early vote, it's a pretty large number. Like, I think half the state has almost voted now. And if the numbers are correct, you got to say, when you look at these early vote numbers, you got to say, well, let's be conservative and say 85% of the Republican registered voters are voting for Trump. It's probably higher than that. Like, he's polling, I think, at 90% in his own party, right? So, but I always go to 85.
I would say like 95. I can't imagine.
I always go to 85 just to, as I say, just to be conservative, just to go to the worst case scenario, right? So you go to the worst case scenario, and then you say independents are whatever, let's say 50-50. They will probably break for Trump, I would think, but 50-50 again. And then you start to get an idea. It's like, wow, if Trump is leading by this much, Republicans could be tied on same day vote and still win. So Nevada, I think, of all the states we're seeing early voting, I think Nevada is really the most encouraging, which is not something I saw coming.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Where can we find you? Anything you want to promote either?
Yeah, you can go subscribe to my YouTube. I know we're doing this on my YouTube as well. Florida Millennial. Go to my my X is at FLA Millennial, or just type in Florida Millennial. You should be able to find it. That's really where I'm active. I've thought about starting a Substack, but those are the two places where I'm active. Unfortunately, I haven't been very active on my YouTube. This is the first YouTube I've done in like 3 weeks. I had to go home, and there's a bunch of other stuff going on, so I haven't been able to. But for the next like whatever it is, 4 or 5 days or beyond. I mean, oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't know if I'm I don't know if I'm ready for another like 2-week long election day. But anyways, I will be streaming lots there. So yes, please go and subscribe to my YouTube, Florida Millennial. Subscribe to the Chapman Show YouTube as well. Great content. You've been having a great week. You've had the Qantas guy on,
right? Seth Levy.
Seth Levy on.
Yeah,
you're really good.
And then I'll be on It's All Interesting tomorrow morning. And then I'll have my show Saturday night as usual.
Very good. Okay. Well, look, maybe we'll do one on Monday or something. We'll do a final. Then I'll show you on Monday. I'll show you my final electoral college.
Sure. I'll bring you back on Monday. That's fine.
All right. Good. Because then we can do. We have it on tape, so we can go back and say like, because everyone says, oh, I said Trump would win. I'm like, yeah.
You listen. If Trump loses, all of our careers are over.
Yeah, that's what Elon Musk said. Elon Musk, yeah. Tucker Carlson said to Elon, he goes, yeah, like if Trump loses, things are going to get a little rough. And Elon goes, yeah, if he loses, like we're effed, like I'm effed, So no, look, I think he's gonna win. Like I tell everyone, pray about it. Pray for him. Pray for his protection, most importantly, because, look, he's putting himself at risk out there for us. And go vote, like drag people to the polls. Remind people, like, don't just be trying to convince Democrats that, like, Trump's good and go vote for him. This is like a turnout game now. Like, go get everyone who might be leaning Trump. Like, this is a time to drive them. This is like, how you usually think like, nah, whatever. Like they'll figure out how to get there. It's like, no, like make sure they get there. It doesn't matter what state you're in. I don't care if you're in like Wyoming, like you're still voting. I don't care if you're in California. I think he's going to do pretty well in California, but so yeah, get everyone out to vote. That's my final until Monday. My final message: pray for Trump, pray for America. As I say, I think he's a destiny candidate, and My prayer and my
as-
hope is that we'll see
As
destiny
Tucker
unfold.
Carlson said, it's the end of a redemption arc.
It's true. It's true. Like, look at this story. You couldn't write it any better. And for it to come down to Pennsylvania, and for Pennsylvania to deliver for us the knockout blow. Look, I speak for many. I probably speak for you and many people who've been for him for a while. It's like we've taken a lot of crap, about being for him over the years, and we can handle it. But it's like a victory would be sweet. A victory would be sweet, and not only would America have a chance of being saved, but it would just be like it'd be an incredible story. So,
all right, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate all your support, and hopefully I'll see you Monday. So
yeah, absolutely.
Good luck. Have a great show on Saturday. Thanks, man.
Thank you. All right, that was Florida Millennial. Go follow him and subscribe to his YouTube channel. Yeah, we'll have him back on Monday. I think we're gonna have Seth Levy. Maybe we'll do a combined show. That would be cool. And subscribe to my channel, like my video, and I will be on It's All Interesting tomorrow morning, and then I have my show as usual midnight on Saturday, which is technically Sunday morning, where I will break everything down and give my prediction for the election this Saturday. So tune in then. Until then, peace.